Wow, welcome, Miss Linda Good McGillis. I am so excited, and the world is so excited to have you back and speaking some words. I'm not going to explain too much of who you are because, we all know who you are. You are an oracle, you are a light bringer, a truth bringer, and an understanding of both the ethers and Gaia. So I'm going to just let you take it away. And here we go.
Hello, hello. Hi, everyone. I'm so glad to be here with you. Lots going on.
Yes.
A lot is going on. The world changed March 2023, and on the energetic side, we changed, and look what's playing out everywhere around us.
Mm-hmm.
Everywhere around us is going on, and there's so much, Jill. There is so much happening as truly we watch ourselves go into a new epoch. An epoch is determined by geological disposition. And you're going to see here in the next few months, I'm sure, geologists and stuff are going to make a formal announcement that we have moved into Epoch 6. And what's important about that is Epoch 6 is the singularity in a war with the all. And that all is every one of the fractals, if you will, that are in a human body. And why is it considered a war? Because we move into the vibrational truth. Truth is as fluid as the vibrational frequency one is at and can maintain in their body. And I know there's a lot out there that cannot cognitively grasp what I mean by that. And truth and untruth is still a bipolarism of duality. And so as you come back to what many call oneness or the singularity, from that point, then you start a whole nother aspect of the journey going into wholeness. And that is where oneness is, where you come in to the singularity. I'm one with all that is. And you truly have that understanding that we are all connected. And
divine neutrality.
Yes. And what's occurring out here is many are coming into the singularity of oneness. And that oneness this is where the real battle begins of my truth and your truth. I'm going to stand in my own interpretation, my own knowing, my own this. And for those that get to that point, and this is where you're going to see going forward, we'll talk about that. You're going to see many fall back because they have reached oneness as far as understanding.
Right.
But they have not reached wholeness of surrendering the cult of personality, the identity to any aspect of themselves. And so for those that are coming into awakening, the spiritual journey, coming into oneness, and I always say that there's a difference between oneness and wholeness. And the reason I say that is because once you reach oneness, then you truly take yourself into a whole nother higher stair step of releasing that time is linear. Now,
right.
Many of us sit there and say time is an illusion. However, we've been in an inverted matrix of time and space continuum, which makes space the illusion as well.
Yes, you're right.
So time and spatialness are both part of the illusion of the limited matrix. And the reason why is because we have been conditioned and taught that time is linear and time is radial. And that is why it is so hard for people to get off of the looping, the hamster wheel of
Right.
pain and suffering. And so what's occurring in mass right now as the shift in consciousness, and it's really helpful to understand it's a shift in consciousness. And even working your way up to oneness and even getting to oneness, that oneness still has an identity of the body. The only difference is you understand that consciousness is not in the body is in consciousness. And so what we're seeing out here is everything that all of us that have reached oneness, that has purified and brought out, if you will, the physicality is the delayed reaction. It all starts within first. And
Yep.
what's speeding up at the same time it is slowing down, because two worlds are playing out right now and have been since March.
Yep.
Since that equinox. And what we're seeing now with everything, and you're going to see it in the next, especially up through the beginning of November, you're going to start seeing massive stuff revealed, become known, stuff that we know within, but it's going to start really hardcore playing out here, because so much as a collective now has been released in this first year and a half of walking through the dark night of the world soul. And so because truth and untruth, and because there is so many vibrational frequencies playing out, what people call timelines, and what people call dimensions.
Right.
12-petaled flower of life consists of 12 dimensions. And all 12 of those dimensions are density, even though they're higher frequencies, and you go
Right.
through, the different frequencies, of the 12 dimensions. So right now, out here has to now come into the singularity of oneness that has been reached in mass within at the soul level. And so as we go forward, more and more and more of the different collective energies of each one of those 12 petals is going to really start merging and playing out here. People who believe in the tribulation from a religious aspect, they are going to see that play out. Somebody who believes in Hopi prophecy, that is what they're going to experience. And those of us that can step back, that can be a witness and not let the outside dictate and control our emotional body, our emotional reaction, our emotional response. Our light sphere, if you will, is going to keep it at a distance. We will witness it, we will see what's going on, yet it is not going to necessarily directly affect us as it will people who have beliefs of different prophecies. Now, you got to remember, the mass collective of humanity has attached to information. And what has
So
led us
would this be like, Linda, would this be kind of like, Dolores Cannon and how she talked about the world splitting? Would this kind of be like the world splitting in the sense of the people that are living of it, or in the ones that are witnessing it are the ones that are coming away to build that go into that new space? Because that's kind of the way it feels to me, but I want to have your perspective, like how you
I'm
see
not
it,
sure
how
what
you feel it.
how Dolores Cannon has phrased it. I have not read her stuff. I've had many people tell me that a lot of the information I talk about, she has written about. I have never read her books.
Okay. Okay.
So how she talks about it, I can't tell you. What I can say is, from the way you vaguely described it, I'm going to say yes. And the reason I'm going to say yes is, as much as we all want to believe that where one goes, we all go, that is accurate on one spectrum of the lotus of life. Where one goes, we all go at the soul level,
Right.
as a one world soul.
Right.
Because the soul is what is going through the ascension.
Right.
We're going through a shift in consciousness.
Right.
And as we shift the mentality, which is energetic. You follow me? Energy
Yep.
only exists in matter form. Everything else is just consciousness. So
Right.
as we shift the consciousness from time being linear back to time being radial, for
Right.
those that are continuing going more and more within, once they hit that oneness, then they start the stair step of clearing all of time is linear of time and space continuum.
Right.
Because the
Okay.
first part of the journey coming up to oneness, you're bringing light in, and light is putting space in between the light particles that are condensed, that make up form
Right.
our vessels.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so the spiritual journey, you're activating and you're engaging and you're bringing the light through you as an underglow, and that light is revealing, bringing space in between the light particles, so each one of us can read the akashic record and the information that is held within our bodies. And so when you can take yourself back to oneness, back to here, then you have to start traversing the higher planes of consciousness that will take you back to wholeness with source. And there is no identity, except Jill is now the name of the vehicle.
Yeah, the vessel.
Linda is the
Yep.
name of the vehicle. And it's not my truth. It's not your truth. There is
No, because every single thing
individual
is this
truth.
is all connected to everything
Right.
else. So just
When you
and
get
that to me
back
is kind of
to,
that whole concept of like divinely neutral. Like you don't get charged by things. Like nothing charges you because it's just all happening. It's like the best way that I can describe it that everyone can understand is it's just like watching something on TV. Like you watch something and you see it, but you're not that. You're not of that,
it's
that
just
what you're watching.
information.
It's just something you're seeing with your eyes.
Yeah. And and that is where you have to be. But people think you're cold-hearted when you're neutral. Humans are not used to that. And you're going to find in the next 3 years, especially, you're going to find that what really starts culminating out of here, and again, I'm going to go back to the all in a war with the all,
Right.
because the all is the humans, and they
Right.
have their beliefs, their truths, their filters, their whatever. And that's where the battle is. You see it in the spiritual new age communities a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's your truth. That's not, this is my truth. And what's really important to cognitively grasp is humans have attached the label belief or truth to how they understand something. And so
Right.
you're going
Right.
to see a lot of defensiveness now start playing out hardcore out here, because everybody feels like they have to defend their truth, their belief system. And the only thing they're defending is how they have come to understand information. And so all of this misunderstanding is going to play out here hardcore. And that's where the battle comes in, because people get defensive. Truth needs no defense.
Right.
And if you go into defense, you're saying that this is true. This false information, distorted information, information you don't resonate with, whatever label you categorize it as. But I can sit here and tell you something, and if you get defensive, it's because you're trying to defend your something that is a lack within you, a separation. That's just like somebody calls your mama a whore, right?
Mm-hmm.
The lower human is going to react. My mom is not a whore, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you know your mom's not a whore,
It just
then
doesn't
why are
it
you going
doesn't
to
botch
get
you at all.
upset
Yeah, you don't.
at somebody calling your mom a whore, which is a lie?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
why defend a lie? You're saying it's true.
Yeah, you're giving energy to it. Yep, that's
And
true. I know exactly what you
I
mean.
use that specific example for a purpose. And because we all can relate to it, not only
Right.
to words, but to experiences in many ways in many people's lives. And so you're going to see a lot of defensiveness, defending beliefs, and separated truths really start playing out here, because it's going to take a few years for misunderstandings to actually neutralize out here. This is a delayed reaction.
Like a giant energetic emotional purge of
Yeah.
all of people's garbage, and we have to like wait through it all, and like we have to like start recycling and putting it into piles and getting it
If
out of
you
our
listen
way.
to here, this tells me to go to New York, I leave and go to New York. I don't plan it out. I don't wait till next week or next month. Spirit tells me to go. It doesn't matter what I have planned, what I have scheduled. Spirit comes first.
Yeah.
And spirit has to come first. Spirit, God, creator, whatever you call it for yourself. That connection has to come first. And it can't be a connection from your preacher, or a connection from Jill, or a connection from Linda, or a connection, that you pray every night before you go to bed. You have to have an intimate knowing with God, with spirit, with creator. And it can't be your family, it can't be your best friend, it can't be your partner. And so you're really going to see, in one way, those that have that connection are going to be able to grow their light in even more, and
Right.
more and more go back to that space of being where you can be the witness, and you can still use your light, your creative force, to create, and they will come. And so
It,
that's where part of us, and not all of humanity is going to go there. There's many of us aware, there's many of us awakened. But unfortunately, because so many have adopted truth and belief systems of only the higher frequencies are of the light,
right.
still chosen
Yeah.
aside, instead of allowing this to weave them through
It,
both sides of the pendulum.
and I guess like something I'm sure the viewers would want to ask you is like, because I've faced it many times in my life, and I recognize and honor and understand what you mean, but like it's just such a surrender. So like it's like a surrender of like a knowing that you have, and it's like even if the whole entire world is like, well, you don't have the money, you don't have the time, you can't do this, you can't do that, no matter what is on the outside, like you said, belief, it doesn't, none of that is real. And
as
so like
long
one,
as, well, that's where people get triggered, and I have triggered many people. How can you say this is an illusion? My kids are very real. How can you say this is not real, Linda? How can you say that? And again, heaven is not a place, it is a vibrational frequency. And even vibration and frequency are two different things. And so one is a tone, one is a sound, if you will. And people have a hard time grasping cognitively why we say this is an illusion, why we say we're in a matrix, we're in a simulation. If you're at a lower vibrational broadband frequency,
right,
time is of a flat screen.
right,
All you know is this out physicality to the material world to be real. So
right,
then you get a third of humanity that now starts to waken. Now it starts the inward journey. And then you have another eighth of humanity, 16th, eighth of humanity that actually have made it above and beyond the veil to the other side and actually can maintain being that witness. And it gets tough for those at a higher frequency to truly cognitively grasp that, yes, going back to oneness, you have to not let things interfere with your vibrational frequency. You have to do that. You have to protect your energy field, blah, 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 blah. But once you pass to the other side of the veil, if you will, your light, if you're truly here in your light is going to protect you. And
exactly, 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 exactly.
that means you have to surrender in every moment, trying to control your light sphere. So there's two sides, always two sides to it. And so once you clear the past and the future back to here, then you start your above and your below and merge them. And so that above and the below that has to come to the meeting point of God, which is the high heart here. That's where I'm saying you have to also flip that. And so what we're seeing for most of those that have come into oneness, come into the awareness, maybe not quite at oneness, but they still haven't pierced their own veil. They are in some way still identifying themselves as the human body, my truth, this is my belief. I don't resonate, blah, blah, blah. And that's fine if people resonate or don't resonate. But again, there is some part that is still separated because source does not separate at all. Source does not label anything from a dual polarity.
Right,
God, source, creator, spirit, whatever
right, right,
the
right.
person labels it. And so what we're going to see in the two worlds is you're going to see the majority of humanity still sees it as a flat screen, that time is linear from A to Z. And those of us that have awareness, that have truly not just adopted awareness and can talk about it and explain
Right,
it, but
right,
actually embody it and live it.
right. Exactly.
For those that actually live it, time is radial, and you see the cycles. In other words, if you've ever seen the movie The Matrix, Neo goes into
Yep.
that room and he sees all of those TV screens, but it's in a circle around him.
Yep.
And he sees every experience he's ever had. That's because he stepped out of just one screen, this one out here, and he went into his full akash, and he could see everything, which means it's radial. That is going to be hard for humanity to grasp.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And
Oh
that
yeah.
is going to, whether they're awakened, whether they're gonna awaken or stay in slumber, that shift in consciousness is still going to start bringing an expansion into the thought process. And whenever you, meaning us as individuals or us as a collective in any way, whether it's your own little circle, whether it's your family, whether it's your
Right.
community, whether it's your state, your culture, your religion, whatever, those collectives are going to go into a space of having how they understand something challenged, and that's going to bring the defensiveness, because people of the lower vibration take things personally. As long as this outside world in any way, shape, or form controls your inside, how you feel, controls your emotional body in any way, you
Yeah.
are trapped by an illusion. And
Yeah.
that illusion says you're only seeing from a flat screen. You have not been able to open this eye. Now, you said something earlier, and I can't remember exactly what you said, but about seeing with the eyes. When I said time and space continuum, and I said, if time is an illusion, so is space. We're in the post-Atlantean epoch. We are in a repeat cycle of the Roman Greek mythology. And it's only in that time and space continuum of experience that planets became.
Wow.
You hear people call Gaia Mother Nature, Mother Earth. But she's only been dumbed down into a planet, into that kind of matter form, only since we started the Atlantean era. Because Gaia, back in, depending on how you want to pronounce it, some pronounce it Gia, some pronounce it Gaia, is one of the first primordial beings. Chaos, Nixon, Gaia. Gaia means life force energy, not a planet, not Mother Nature, not Mother Earth. And originally, Mother Nature was, have you ever heard the phrase, it's just my nature? Nature is an essence, not land.
Right.
But
Right.
through time and space continuum of evolution, walking through the constellational ages,
It
we have
shifted
gone
it
down in
all. It
density.
twisted it all into that.
So what a life force energy called Gaia, which is nature, which is an essence of life force consciousness.
Right. Right.
It has been dumbed down, first Mother Nature to be the four winds, the four directions, the weather, and then dumbed down even more into density to become trapped in form called a planet. So, yes, I understand you can see planets, but planets are directly part of this story that rules the chakras. And again, when you go back to source, there's only a singularity, which means there's not 7 continents, there's only one landmass.
Right.
And so as this shifts, because the consciousness is shifting.
We're gonna so I know you said this before years ago because I remember this. What you said is it's all gonna come back together. So all the shifting and breaking that we did in our density when we pushed everything around and moved it with our consciousness, it's because our consciousness is shifting and changing, our earth is going to change. How long, your
Yes.
prediction, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, how long do
I
you think
don't
that's going to
do
be?
predictions because I can tell you what's coming.
Right.
As far as when it's going to happen, you never know how it's going to play out here.
Right. Too
You
many
can
variables.
dictate you can dictate the planetary alignments that are going to create a wave or ripple of energy. You cannot predict anything. You cannot prophesize anything. However, we can sit there and say that this is the planetary alignment that's coming. This is the influence that it's going to have as it ripples through the positive and the negative. But again, the thing with that is there is so many different astrologies that people go by. The soul don't go by Western astrology, tropical astrology, esoteric astrology. The soul don't go by any of that because we're in a repeat cycle of the Roman and the Greek era.
So now I got a question for you. So now that we're talking about the Earth landmass coming kind of, the continents coming back together, what does that mean for like the actual planets, like that we think are planets outside of us? What's going to happen to our consciousness understanding of that?
Eventually people will wake up. It will ripple out to where everyone will come to a cognitive understanding. How long that takes, we can't determine. But the binary system of the inverted matrix, you hear all these people say Planet X is coming in, the binary twin is coming in, and blah, 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 blah. When you can understand that the planets are custodial guardians of the lower realms. If you guys have a higher self, then you have to have higher guardians, unseen guardians, because your higher selves are those guardians. For every female vessel, your higher self, or what people refer to as a higher self, what I'm going to say is your etherical body, is a masculine essence because you're in a female body.
Right.
The masculine, and I've said this for 10 years, their higher self is feminine, which means their etheric body is feminine to keep balance. There is never an imbalance with the divine. There is only an imbalance with the mind, which creates imbalance within the body. And
so I guess now that we're talking about this, I wonder how long it's going to take the collective story to get completely out, to get completely not ruled by this and in that space of
it's not going to stop. And I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Everybody has a choice of what frequency they want to operate from and what vibrational truth within that frequency. You're going to see, there's some of us, and I've said this for years, not all of us will ascend with the planet. You're going to see, again, there's millions of people that have awareness, but you're going to see as we go forward, because the binary system ends in 2027.
Okay.
Of the
so
inverted.
that's when it's kind of do or die.
And then we have the last 2 years going up to 2029, which brings in another planetary alignment. And depending again on what vibrational frequency broadband you're bouncing or maintaining in, 2030, if you go by the Holy Bible, is an akashic record book. It's a code book if people can not take it literal.
Yeah.
and tune in here. And what's playing out right now is biblical from the code book aspect, but also biblical in a whole different way on the religious aspect. And so for many that are in the religious aspect, we have just now begun 7 years of tribulation, and they will experience that because that is their belief system. God don't judge, humans do. The
Nope.
ancient mystery of judgment, everything comes back full circle. Life is an echo. They call it karma, whatever you want to call it. And so that echo is coming back to us now in all ways. Those that hasn't been cleared, those energies and templates and codes that haven't been cleared, all of that which has been cleared, because this is the delayed reaction.
That's something that I think is hard for people to really like. They're not wrapping their head around. This has already happened. We're just getting the reverberation of it. Like, and that's something that I know I understand deep within, but it's hard for me to even express it. I wonder if there's an easier way for us to express that humans, that other people can understand, because that's such a, it's like such a foreign concept.
Okay, you have a sphere of light. New Age, they call it a toroidal field, right?
Yep.
Your energetic sphere.
Yep.
In that sphere is what?
Your core
Your
essence.
body.
Yeah, your energetic line. Yep.
Is your physical body inside
Okay.
this
Oh yeah,
sphere,
yeah. Yep.
right? So the human who has been enslaved and conditioned and programmed by linear time, which is all of us until we come out of it, right?
Right.
They can only see from a flat screen. It's tunnel vision. Right?
Right.
Okay. They can't see their peripheral. Oh, you guys can kind of see it. So when you understand your what is called chakra system,
Right. Right.
each
Yep.
one of those chakras is directly tied into a planet.
Right.
Yeah, 10 fingers and toes. Your big toes and your thumbs are the sun and moon. Sun and moon, your eyes. So you have to surrender. Close your eyes. The soul don't see anything out here.
Right.
The soul operates from, remember that sphere?
Mm-hmm.
Remember that tunnel vision?
Mm-hmm.
This tunnel vision is only dictated by 5 physical senses.
Yeah.
And the 6th sense of thought. People think the 6th sense is their gut feeling, their intuition. But it's not. It's the sense of thought. So in this tunnel vision, remember, you have a sphere, but all you're seeing is this much just in front of your sphere. So everything from here all the way around there is 355 sensory senses from here
Yes.
down, because humans have lived from here up, 5 physical senses.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Taste, touch, smell, sight, and hearing. So from here down, that's why the journey is 12 inches. That's it. But people make it so hard. It's 12 inches, and they make it sound like it is the walk of death. Right? It's not that hard to get to your heart, but for some it is. I get it. There's no judgment on my part. But in that,
it is a short distance physically.
so the journey isn't about ascending.
No.
It's about you descending into your abyss.
Yes.
Right? Meaning
Yes.
you have to go below here.
Yep.
Right?
And I feel like I think that journey is just the surrender to feeling, like just to feel,
Sensory feeling,
And
not
like,
emotional feeling. The
yes, yes.
sensory will bring up the emotion rather than the thought creating emotion. And so from here down, the whole journey to awakening is about bringing from here down, your shoulders down,
Mm-hmm.
355 sensory senses that have been numbed
Right.
down, alive.
Yes. Yes.
That means you no longer have, or your body has organs. I get it. But within its informational centers, your liver
Right.
holds your hate, your pancreas holds your I'm not good enough. Your lungs hold all the energy from the distortion that you have been speaking and smothering. You know,
Right.
you know, your stomach holds all of those etheric cords and attachments. Why do you think when the radiation comes in, everybody gets nauseated or ascension symptoms or this or that? Because you're bringing space in so you can bring light as an underglow. And so it's very easy to entertain the mental body. It's very easy to bring clarity, to bring understanding to it. It's very easy to go into meditation and get information, interstellar travel. But even eventually, even all that will be surrendered for those that are truly going back to source within themselves and allowing source, just like Yeshua did. He allowed I am that I am. He allowed mother and father to speak through him.
Right.
He put him aside. And that is really hard for the human mentality to really cognitively grasp. How can you claim that you are God? No, I am claiming that I am one with source.
Exactly.
I have merged myself back and have now acquired a higher intelligence that is automatically going to challenge how a person understands something.
Yeah.
And that's what we're about to walk through. Everybody's understanding being challenged as the shift in consciousness ripples out through the whole civilization. And that's where people spiral. And there are many that are going to be triggered out here, many that have awareness, many that claim to be awakened, many that have returned themselves past the veil. They too are going to fall for a lot of this out here because they have not neutralized the emotional body. And as long as the emotional body is not neutralized and you go back to energy and
Now,
allow yourself to see only
I
energy.
understand what that means, but I guess for people that are watching this that aren't as far along, let's say, how would one get to that level of being able to neutralize? Like, if you had any sort of tips or ideas or, steps
Greatest
in that
guidance,
direction.
the greatest guidance I can give
Hmm.
is learn deep breathing. You know, I've had people
Amen.
mock
Amen.
I've had people mock my video on the candle exercise.
I've done it.
But
It's
if
great.
you can truly use it not to go into a trance, not to fall asleep, not to gain clarity, not to escape whatever's stirring up inside of you, if you can truly use it to, just like in a Lamaze, you know, they give you a focal point and then tell you to breathe.
Right.
That is going to be the greatest tool anyone can do. And to master quieting this, because this is dictated to out here, that this is dominant, this is important, rather than your feelings inside you. And as long as a person can break through the mental body, because the mental body is what people get caught up in. They believe that their thoughts are truth. Well, I think you're mad at me. Well, no, there's nobody mad at you. Well, I think there is, so that I'm right and that's true. Well, no, nobody is. So how come you're not challenging that thought? You're just automatically saying it's true. Because somebody that doesn't understand that this is a smoke screen and you have to see through it with this eye, not
Yeah.
the sun and the moon, because this eye doesn't operate by sun and moon. And the moon, people think, is a satellite. The moon just represents the dark side of the sun. It's the same object. But that's not what we have been taught. And
Yeah.
the biggest thing that is really going to start in the course of the next few years, as the misunderstanding of what people have been taught, how they've understood things, really comes to a culmination and starts to neutralize out, you're really going to see that how do I want to say this? You're really going to see that's where people are going to spiral. You're really going to see people fall for narratives. Because remember, we've lived in time, they've hit us from space, the information out here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so all of that has to play out too. And so they're going to start introducing space, and you have to walk through that part of the illusion. But because so many people that are in awareness, that have remembered the planetary, have remembered the galactic, have remembered the angelic side of them, they hold on to that instead of surrendering that and allowing themselves to go to higher and higher frequencies of information. The second you become aware of information is the second it no longer matters. But people hold on to clarity. Nope, spirit showed me this. Nope, spirit showed me that. I do too. But I allow new information to join that information rather than just hold on to that information and say, this is absolute. And so what you're going to really see play out here is everybody's belief, whoosh, all into a quantum soup. So for the next few years, as we walk through that quantum soup, you got to remember the quantum soup is the personality of identification. I'm a mother, I'm a woman, I'm a man, I'm a jock,
Right.
I'm a hood, I'm I'm a drunk, I'm an addict, I'm this, I don't feel good, I can't, I have not. All of that survival mentality is what we have to walk through right now. And we have to keep walking through it until we can bring the full shift in consciousness. Now, you also got to remember that many are going to choose to leave, if you will, leave their physical vessels.
Yeah, pass.
Some will make it through all these earth changes. And it's really helpful as Earth goes through her changes, and she has to.
Yeah.
Whether that's tsunamis, whether that's earthquakes, whether that's volcanoes, whether that's heat, whether that's rain, she has to. And why does she have to? Because so many of us have chosen the higher broadband frequency of her ascended state, which means this out here, which is the delayed reaction, has to shift in imagery of sun and moon. Our soul exists in a place here where there's not a sun and a moon. There is no planets. And so to the human,
when will we exist in that realm? I want to be
that's an
there.
individual choice, darling.
I mean, I don't want to leave the sun and the moon. They're beautiful beings, they're beautiful things, but I do want to go further and further and further. So I'm excited for that. I'm excited to be.
Because this eye opens and these two, which is dictated by duality,
Mhm.
just merge into it, and you don't see the flat screen. Like me, I can see out. I can
Mhm.
see through. I can, what people see as backdrop, I see as my screen, whereas people see here. And
I have this ability to feel a lot. Like I can feel things
mhm,
in a more I can feel other things existing in my realms, but it's not I can't see it yet. It's not all in my eyes. I can't it's not with my eyes
because
yet.
we're in between that space of death and birth. The old is crumbling, but the new hasn't presented itself.
Right.
And so when
So,
you ask for those, for those that aren't necessarily at a higher vibrational awareness, they're still walking through the stair steps.
mhm,
As long as you have an emotional reaction, whether that is through your thought, whether that is through an automatic behavior,
right.
or anything, you're going to see the other side of the coin of victim, which is
Mhm.
self-righteousness,
Right.
really come full force. And again, breathing, learning to master your mind. If you're seeking clarity, the only thing you're seeking is to understand something. Clarity will always come after the fact. And what do I mean by that? Clarity is going to come after the experience, hindsight, whereas
Right.
here is going to show you foresight. So, where you say prediction, where you say prophecy,
Right.
there's a difference between foresight and prediction, because
Right.
your innate is going to show you this is going to play out. But for your innate, everything is right now. So when you're
Right.
here, you have the ability to see through this eye, whether it's in meditation or visions, lucid dreaming, or whether it's physical, like
Right.
you and I are sitting here and you can look
Right.
out the window. You
Right.
will be That's the merging that's taking place, of the shift of consciousness to where you start to see out here the whole quantum field, the whole 12 density dimensions of yourself. So when you have all of these people, humans, going through this shift in consciousness, whether they know what's happening or not, your cognitivity is going to be challenged. And they're going to start getting insight, and they're going to start hearing voices, and they're going to start seeing things. But because the limitation of their vibrational frequency,
Hasn't caught up. Yeah.
it's going to put a lot of people into fear, because it's information that they've never known about, or they've heard from somebody
So
else but haven't
that
experienced.
that's where I think people as ourselves really come into play to why we're here and what we're doing is to really, really, really be consciously compassionate. Consciously compassionate.
And there's times where you're not going to be able to be compassionate. There's going to be times your innate is going to make you stand up and say no more. And this is what people really struggle with, is there is a ideation that you can only be soft and gentle, that you can't be forceful, that you can't be straightforward. People come at me all the time. No, Linda, if you were in such a high vibration, you would be all floaty and loving and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, no, because that too is part of a pendulum swing. There is no neutrality there. And I don't live by sight. I live by sensory feeling.
Right.
And
Right.
for me, if somebody is coming at me with their distortion, it burns my field like a hot iron. And I will just start putting it back on him. Now, you need to go.
Yeah. So you physically remove yourself or what do you do?
I confront it, and I just say no more manipulation. Either if it's a person, either you need to check yourself, you need to do your inner work, and you need to change, or you're not going to be part of my reality anymore. And I've had to do that to a few, because when you are in close proximity to somebody, and this goes for anyone, you become like the 5 people you spend the most time around. And if you are in a space of constantly having to protect your field, it's going to bring you down. And I learned that the hard way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because again, surrendering means you don't have to protect anything, because there's nothing outside of you that will affect you. But we will always go through experiences to show us.
Right.
Have I always handled them in the most graceful way? No. Do I hold regret? No. You know, you stay in a space of forgiveness for yourself and non-judgment. But
Right.
at the same time, you have to learn to balance your innate and human body. The whole purpose is to clear the human body of the distortional energy that's held within the cellular molecular structure.
And that's a big one.
And that is a big one, because
That's a big one.
it's very hard and challenging to wake up 355 sensory senses. And we all go through those stair steps. Nope, I got clarity. Oh, I know everything now. But again, you take yourself from the all-knowing human, knowledge is power, to knowing nothing and aware of all.
Like being like a little baby and seeing everything is like brilliant and
Yeah.
wow, like being
Now,
in awe.
but you also got to remember, you're always going to have all frequencies and vibrations running through your field,
So
unless
how
you just
long did
completely isolate yourself.
how long have you been on this path, Linda? I'm really curious. Like
You
how
know,
long has, is this
I had
unbalanced
my
on for
walk
you?
in, and I know a lot of people don't understand what I mean by a walk in. But in that near death experience, I fully merged with myself and with source, and that's what I refer to as my walk in. And it took me from the time I broke my tailbone to my walk in was 9 months. And I had to walk through a whole lot then. And then from April of 2014 forward, it took me 5 years of pretty much being isolated by myself, doing all of that work, just to get myself back to source without, because when my tailbone broke and sent me into full awakening, I had full remembrance. Did I understand it? Not a chance.
Oh
Taken
shoot.
me a long
You
time
had to put that all together.
to fully understand it. I understood it, but the human aspect didn't understand it. And that goes, there's a lot on your journey you haven't understood either. But you
Right.
have to surrender the control of needing to know, needing to understand. And so for
Yeah.
the first 5 years, that's what I did. And I understood the planetary control. That's called the Elohim. I understood the custodial guardians. And so when I awoken, and then when I had my walk in and merged with my etheric body, my higher self, and also source all at the same time, I was able to see the etheric world, the structure. My whole third eye was completely open. And
That
so
had to be kind
I
of shocking in a lot of ways.
I couldn't see the way people do. And
Wow.
I seen the structure first, and I still do. And people mock me because I say I have 7 planetary computers in front of me, holographic computers. Well, all of us do. You guys just call them chakras. Well, I've moved it from being a chakra to being
Out
my
in front of you.
consciousness.
Yeah.
And so it took me 5 years to master all of those informational byways, if you will. And I was so mad. I got 5 minutes of peace after 5 years of fully bringing it all in. I was so mad. It's like I only get 5 minutes of absolute paradise, and then
Wow.
here comes a whole nother pathway of the higher outside of these 12 density dimensions.
Because it never ends, right, Linda? It just never ends. The amount of it's just infinite, right? It just keeps going.
The Holy Father, what is known as the Holy Father, is the unknowable. That's why I say you got to surrender the human that's all knowing or thinks it's all knowing to become knowing nothing and aware of all. And that's a tough thing to get to, because there's always human things that you have to do while you're in form and this and that. And it's beautiful at the same time. Pain and suffering is only caused by thought. Heal your mind, your world's going to change. But people think there's so much that they have to do, and the only thing they have to do is silence the mind and observe it. Because this intelligence is not emotionally attached to anything out here. Your higher intelligence is not attached emotionally to anything, because your soul doesn't have 5 physical senses and the 6th sense of thought. The soul don't have that. The soul has consciousness.
It's this constant experience that we're choosing.
Yeah.
And we can either choose it over and over, or we can choose to get to the next level of ourselves. So
Right.
it's always a choice.
But when you can take yourself back to source is living through you, speaking through you, you come to understand, instead of being the written word and living by a written word, you become the living word of God in mind, body, and soul. And
The ultimate temple.
right. And in order to, again, 2030, we're promised a new body.
What is that going to look like?
A Homo luminous body, but not everybody's going to go into that.
So
So
it's going to be much more light, way less dense, way more light.
and the beautiful thing about it is we're at the end. As far as the end is now going to start presenting itself in the physicality. The
We have
darkest,
to,
the
yeah.
evilest, the densest, whatever you want to call it, because that's what we're clearing and walking through inwardly right now. We're walking through the shadow, the deepest, darkest, shadowy side of the victim, villain, hero, savior template, or victim,
Yes,
villain,
yes,
savior,
yes.
hero template. And so this is the other self-righteousness, is the deepest shadow of victim, not the victimizational mentality that comes from having an experience of making you a victim. Someone betrayed you, someone cheated on you, someone abandoned you, whatever it is that made you a victim. In that, the walls we put around our heart was an unconscious self-righteousness, because in that, now all of a sudden you want to help people. Now all of a sudden you want to save people. Now all of a sudden you're going to try and help them. And I'm very guilty of it.
Yeah, and and that's another thing that I feel like it took me some time to get to that understanding that all you can do is lead by example. Like you cannot guide anybody to do anything because it's their path. And if you try and you hold space to shift people, you're actually can manipulate them in a way that's incorrect for what they want to do. And like that's like against natural law. So you really have to take responsibility that all you can do is behave in a way with your body and your energy and your words that holds you to a level that you want to see in everyone else. And that's it.
Yeah. And for the intimate families and relationships and everything else that people have in their own individual bubble, this it can be challenging.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know There's people that I've had 4 and 5 years as my friends and everything else, and I've had to end the friendship because for 4 or 5 years I have told them when they lied to me not to lie to me, when they tried to manipulate me, when they tried to control me. I point that pattern out to them, and I hold space for them. I have a lot of love and compassion for it, but it gets to a point in time that you have to choose. Do I want to keep doing this, keeping this reflection, keeping this in
I
my
agree.
field?
I agree with you. There is a place and a point where
Right.
no, no
And
more.
so again, many people are coming to that choice point out here because this is where the experience is. And that villain, the victim hero, the villain savior is what we're about to walk through,
And
because that
that's what we're
is the
already starting to see. We're
deepest.
starting to see that a
and
lot.
and that's where the self-righteousness comes in. And the self-righteousness is because we as a human civilization have equated love to the need to save somebody, the need to assist somebody, the need to help, to guide, to whatever. I have stated for years, we don't need teachers, we don't need healers. Heal your mind, you will change your world. And
And
so,
that's a whole and that's like such a and that's such the opposite of what is going on, like with all these, like you said, the spiritual world, the healing world, like it's all like it's like an industry. It's like, oh well, I have to give this person money so they can do this thing for me. And no, like the thing you
because they
need to
say
do
it's
is
an energy exchange. No, there's the soul automatically exchanges energy. The divine is never out of balance. Never. It's only the
no,
human
and if you're
side.
completely surrendered, and you know this as well as I do, and this is another thing about surrender. Once you surrender, everything's taken care of. The money, it all just
But
appears
people have to
like a
challenge
miracle.
their definition of what surrender means.
Yeah.
It's really helpful to understand that we have lived by definitions. But more importantly, we have been enslaved by scientific interpretation.
I know.
And so it don't matter how far you go back. There is a theory, there is something that was discovered. And so people take that and they build off of it. All of this
Further
scientific,
further away from their heart, further away from their intuition, further away from their feelings, further, 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 further.
yes. And so, you know, and I've said this before, you have to merge spirit and science. But then again, once you merge that, then you realize it was never that part that you had to merge only on the human aspect, but then you have to merge spirit and matter and let go of spirit and science. And that's where again a lot of people get confused and get caught up in.
So explain what you mean by spirit and matter.
You have to bring your etheric sphere, your higher self, into your body, which is matter,
Your physical matter. Okay.
and let your light spread apart all of the light particles that make up your form of matter,
Right.
and create a homo luminous body. You do that by pulling the light through here,
Through
bringing the,
your heart. Through your heart. Through
which is
your
an underglow. But
And that's what we're doing over so-called time of what's going on right now. That's what we're doing.
that's the inner work for those that continue to focus inwardly rather than get caught up out here. And those that are just awakening the last couple of years, they're in the middle of their spiritual journeys, if you will, or the first part going back to oneness. they're merging spirit and science. You walk through the rabbit holes, you walk through the planetary branches, the galactic branches, the conspiracy theory branches, because you can wake up to oneness by hitting, the fifth, sixth, seventh dimension. In the spirit new age spiritual community, they're saying the kingdom of God is the seventh dimensional frequency, which they're accurate in one part of the story. But the kingdom of God is outside of the inverted matrix completely.
Altogether. Yeah. Yeah.
If you will.
Now, do you believe that we all have incarnated into these vessels with already sort of like that predestined, like, yeah, I'm going to go through this whole process here with this shift, or no, I'm only going to go through partial, like I'm going to go through some of this, but then I'm going to do something
Let me
else
ask you
somewhere else.
something. Because I don't live by beliefs. I don't put a limitation on on
Good catch. Thanks.
the information that comes through me. But what I want to ask you is, did you hear everything you just said? And what I mean by that is, did you hear how many times you said, I'm? That separation.
Correct.
Because you're referring to it as you, the fractal. And that's
language.
That in one way or another, it's a stair step that we all walk through, myself included.
No, thank you. That's language. That's
why I say the war of my truth and your truth. In a general, not you and me.
Yeah.
Because we do that. We adopt my knowing, my truth.
It's all there. It all exists.
My frequency.
It's not, yeah.
I'm. It's still a separation. And because we're coming into the ascended shift in consciousness, it's a telepathic. That is a telepathic existence.
Right.
Everybody thinks telepathy is so great. Again, we are taught to not look at both sides.
Right.
And as much as telepathy is awesome, my experience for the last 6 years has been very challenging. Because I can see through people. I can see their soul blueprint. I can see their their blockages, because I see construct before I see physicality. And every one of their thoughts of anyone I come in contact with, every one of their thoughts are like conversation bubbles above their head for me.
Wow. That's wow. That's intense.
Let me tell you how challenging telepathy is for somebody that has awareness and maybe awakened versus somebody that does not. You have somebody with this shift in consciousness that starts getting deja vu, starts weaving in little things, visions, and information comes in that challenges everything they've been taught. Or they're walking down the street and pick up somebody's thoughts, or even their own family or their kids. All of a sudden they're hearing they just grounded their teenager, and they're hearing all of these thoughts of what their teenager is calling all the names and how angry in their mind.
Right.
And not react to it.
Yeah. That's so, like, it feels like it's, if you're not, if you haven't gotten there and you're not ready for it, it's chaos. So
and
if you have
2/3 of this world is not ready for it. 2/3 is not ready for it. And 1/4 of the third that know about it, that have tuned in, that have adopted other people's awareness and information and can talk about ascension and awakening, they're not prepared for it either. because it's a shock. It is a shock when you start hearing people's minds. And the greatest thing we're going to see out here, I've described it in multiple ways, how people understand. I'll give you another angle of that.
Yeah.
How you're going to see it play out is the truth will set you free, but the truth is going to piss you off first. And if the deepest enslavement that we have within our own selves, and this goes for any single one of us,
Right.
is anger. And anger is directly caused from abandonment. Abandonment from source.
So that's just has to happen. All that just has to come.
Because as the veil, again, how people understand, it's going to be challenged. And as consciousness,
I've felt it. I don't know how much you felt, but boy, every day sirens in the streets.
Oh, we're watching it all around us.
People driving like they don't know how to drive anymore.
And let me tell you,
angry.
People that are completely enslaved will absolutely reject anything of the unseen. Anything. They don't understand energy. They don't believe in frequency. They don't believe in vibration. And they think it's hocus pocus. So now, as a mass awakening starts occurring, because the shift in consciousness, the planet Gaia is not waiting for anybody else.
I know.
She don't care if you're awake or not awake. She don't care if you have redeemed yourself or not redeemed yourself. She don't care. And
Is there gonna be
harsh.
do you see that there's gonna be some sort of solar flash, Linda, or it's not gonna be all at once like that?
It is, but it's not.
Is that just gonna be the people that adopt
because it already happened and occurred, and these lower realms, it's a delayed reaction. Everything starts in the ethers, then comes the energetic, and then comes physical.
Right.
And because this already took place in December 2012, we went through the solar flash.
Yeah.
Came out the other side.
Yeah.
But it has not occurred on the physical plane yet. Is it occurring slowly? Absolutely. We're building to it.
Yeah.
You know, they say we're going to hit the solar maximum in 2025. I'm going to say, nope, it's going to be a lot earlier. And how that plays out, there's nobody that can predict it.
Right.
We can tell you the planetary alignments that are coming that are going to have this effect. Like I said last year, April 12th was the alignment of the second coming of Christ. How long it takes to get to the physicality, I can't tell you. And you're starting now to see those etheric coding that took place and the alignment that took place. You're starting to see it now hit the physical. And that's what people have to keep in mind. Humans that are at our lower realm vibration, everything is literal. And when you go back to oneness and then you start the journey back to wholeness, where you walk through not just your 12, you've already done that. That's why you got back to oneness. But now you have to start walking through the guardians, the stair step of the guardians, the custodial guardians. You have to walk through the Pleiadian, Arcturian, Syrian guardians of the lower realms, which is the matter form. Then you have to start walking through the guardians and custodians of the 7 heavenly upper realms, which people call the light world. And once you go through there, then you have to surrender the planetary. Then you have to go through the the solar. So there's many stair steps to go back to wholeness. Right now, the mass is going to go back to oneness. And then there's going to be some of us that can just be the witnesses, because we have now put ourselves back to wholeness, where we can be guardians, if you will, of consciousness. And guardians of consciousness means, instead of walling your heart up, you're not going to let information in that's going to distort your consciousness. This is going to live through you. Source, God, creator is going to live through you, speak through you, be that unique expression of Christ consciousness, versus it being, oh, Linda's wisdom.
Right.
Because the one world soul is Christos Sophia. That's who we all are outside of this form. And that's what you have to take yourself back to, that oneness, and then surrender you. So there is only source coming through the cosmic mother's heart. And that's where you take yourself back to oneness, the cosmic mother's heart, the cosmic heart.
Mm.
And so and not everybody's going to go there. They're the majority of the masses. You have to understand, play roles for us.
Right.
And we don't need those roles.
So that's really, really potent right there. The way you just framed that was really, really, really
We
potent.
don't need those holographic imagery to play roles for us. We don't need other soul fractals to play a role for us anymore. This is where people see a lot of physical death. This is where people are really going to see how emotionally attached to the identity of a body versus a bond here. This is where people are going to see their realities upended.
Yeah.
And this is where the world is going to need our light.
Yeah.
This is where
it's intense, Linda. I'll tell you, it's intense.
it
And
is.
I feel in my realm of existence with all that is, I feel blessed. Like I'm not going through and feeling and doing a lot of things that other people are having so many struggles. And I think it's to feel all that struggle and know that I'm not in it. It's like that's, I think, for me and maybe for other people that are watching, I think that's the hardest thing, being a human and being able to feel all that and to know that you're witnessing it, but you don't have to be of it, and it's not your responsibility. And I think it's like these codes in us, these old codes of like taking care of and nurturing and holding and saving and healing, like you said, like these
Because those
old
are
codes
attached
are,
to an idea of
and they need to slip away and dissolve. And we have to be reminded that we're not in any way bad or
as
wrong
long as
or
there is a right or wrong put to something, a polarity, there is a separation. And the hardest challenging, I'm going to put into words everything you just said. I'm going to put into one sentence. It is not our responsibility any longer to take on the burden of another person's mind.
Thank you. You said it way better than me, Linda.
And that is how we have spent our lives.
Yes, yes, yes.
Somebody's going through a hard time. We have to take that burden on. And it is not for us, and this is tough, because this is where manipulation, this is where influence, the power of suggestion, blah, 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 people's opinions, people's expectations, people's judgments come into play. It is your responsibility to take on their burden of their mind, where their victimization, well, you're cruel by telling me I'm in my mind. You're cruel. No, I'm not cruel. You're cruel for trying to force the burden of your mind onto me.
Yeah, no, I mean,
You're cruel for trying to
exactly.
force me to take on the burden of your emotional body that you don't want to deal with. And that's where people say I'm not loving and kind and compassionate, because after a while I'll help people, I'll assist them, I'll show them their patterns, but I will not take on their emotional body or the burden of their victimized mind. And I put boundaries up. Well, if you were so loving, if you were representing this, you wouldn't have to put that boundary up. I say, I either put that boundary up or I'm going to delete you because you're just a thought in my reality. And people don't like that either. How can you say I'm just a thought? Well, you're in my physical presence. So that means you're my reflective mirror and I'm just going to delete you. But I go into that where it's not personal for me. And the
Right.
hardest part of humanity, because we have been enslaved to everything is personal.
Yeah, and that's, I
Lower
think
mentality.
that's a deep-seated one, Linda.
Yeah.
That's a deep, deep-seated
And
one.
that lower mentality vibrational frequency takes everything personal. And because they take it
Yeah.
personal, they automatically become a victim
Yep.
and they become victimized and they fall into that loop. And again, it's what we're going to see out here. And yes, you can have compassion, you can have empathy, but the
Right.
second you go into sympathy is the second you have just now taken on the burden of one, somebody else's mentality, and two, you've taken on the burden of their emotional body that they're not seeing, that they're not aware of. And for me, I won't do that anymore.
No, that's a
And
great
by the same token,
reflection.
I won't isolate myself from them either, because the greatest lesson and initiation any one of us have is to come back into the world from that oneness, from that wholeness, and not let any vibration affect you.
Right.
You should be able to walk through this world and not let anything bother you. For the most part, I can. There's some things that still get to me. You know, we
Yeah.
always we always can expand. And
How is your physical vessel and how is your energy currently?
you
How are
know,
you feeling through all this?
I go through the waves. My spirit is very strong and very high.
Hmm.
Um, that doesn't fluctuate too much. I can get intense when those around me that are in the lower frequencies, they get caught in spiraling in their mind or something. Their energy affects me greatly.
Right.
And I'll try to talk to them, but if I start to get intense, it's like, you know what, you spiral, and I just walk away.
Yeah.
Um, but I travel so much that I'm away more than I'm around it anymore. And
Right.
you learn to balance it. It's all truly about a harmonic balance.
My body has felt a lot of exhaustion, but outside of exhaustion, it hasn't been too much. And it hasn't been exhaustion all the time. It just comes in waves, like you said. I'll have waves of like where I'm tired, but that's about all I've really, really felt.
The exhaustion comes in waves for me too.
Yeah.
For everybody. There'll be great spirits will be working in the garden or at the restaurant or whatever, whomever it is, and all of a sudden they'll just want to, it hits them and they have to lay down. For me, the last 3 days, I have had an internal shaking that is coming with the waves.
Wow.
Not visible, or like when I go to
You
lay
can
down,
feel
um, I'll go and I'll lay down if I start getting that internal shaking.
Wow.
But I've connected myself. I've done the inner work and connected myself, become the land, and the land becomes you.
Yeah. Yep.
And so I know, and my body goes through, I can pinpoint where any earthquake is about to take place or has taken place or within minutes. I can tell you when a volcano is about to erupt and where in the world.
Do you have any take on all these fires? I mean, anything like just more Earth stuff, just
When you
all of
take
our consciousness coming back through.
when you take away all the narratives
Yep.
and again become the land and the land becomes you, when you take yourself fully back to your innate,
Yep.
we're bringing the light. Light is fire, light is electricity, light is information.
Yep.
And every place that there is a fire is a place that needs purification.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was feeling internally. I was feeling that same thing.
We can give whatever kind of definition we want. Oh, it's caused by fracking. Oh, it's caused by weather modification. Well, if we are the light grid and we're the light that lights up the light grid or depletes it, then we're
Right.
the ones that control the weather and modify it. And
Right.
it's really easy to say, no, something outside of us is doing that. There's rogue aliens, there's this, there's that. But again, that is information that has been influenced for outside of you to attach to create another belief that is going to create a branch that's going to take you down a rabbit hole. Again, the best tool you can give yourself is to close your eyes. Okay, my soul doesn't see any of this. My soul doesn't see her triggering me. My soul doesn't see him doing this. My soul doesn't see a government. My soul doesn't smell, taste, touch, hear, or
Right.
see.
Yep.
My soul is sensory,
Yep.
not emotional. It's not mental. My soul don't have thought or emotion.
Right.
And when you get too triggered, you get too caught up. That's what you have to do. You have to use your breath to calm the panic in your body. You have to calm the stress and the worry and the anxiety that your mind is going through, because your mind is getting light, which is information that's going to challenge this,
Yep.
because your
Yeah.
soul sees from here back around. So
Yep.
you have to bring all of this information to be your new smoke screen. And that's tough for people to invert. So, I mean, a lot
It's
is
a
going to
whole lot.
play
It's a
out
whole
here.
lot of humanity having to take the quick step. It has to be like you have to like keep up the pace. It's like there's
Yeah.
no stragglers for this energy.
Well, when you look at, okay, there's one world soul, there's only one soul split into all of us,
Right.
right? So you have 7.4 billion bodies running around this earth. And every single one of those bodies is going to have information
Right.
that we need, that the soul needs,
Yeah.
the one world soul. But see,
Right.
we get personal. Well, it's my journey, it's my information, it's my wisdom.
Like we own it.
Exactly. It's my
Like we own
truth,
it. Like it's a
it's my
commodity.
insight, it's all about me. And it's not about any of us. It's about
No.
Crystal Sophia, our one world soul, that is going through a major correction to pull herself out of density. And our vessels are here to assist with that. So you have to release your identity in all aspects of your identity. I'm a nurse, I'm a mother, I'm a doctor, I'm a caregiver, I'm this, because you've been everything to your children and to the world and to your
Yeah.
animals. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And so that whole identity you have to release so you can just be source experiencing itself. Because if you can't see God in everything, you don't see God at all. I
Exactly.
had somebody tell me, well, this is the Bible Belt and we're deep seated in our religious beliefs. So we scrutinize everyone that's different. Well, then you're not that deep seated in your religious beliefs because you wouldn't scrutinize at all. You know what I'm saying? If you truly lived and embodied that belief system. And so that's
I wonder how long it's going to, I wonder on a time frame basis where how long it will take to remove all religion and just have that be that oneness,
you
that
know, within the next 2.5, 3 years, you're really going to
that's
start
it?
seeing
Really?
it level
Wow.
out. Remember, we're walking through the dark night of the world soul for 5 years, which puts us up at 2027,
Okay.
where we end that binary and then we walk through the remnants for 2-3 years, bringing us to 2030 of that tribulation, of that dark energy, of that misunderstanding, if you will. So you're going to really start to see it balance after June of 2025. Sure, it's going to culminate and we're still going to play out for another year or so as we go down the mountain, if you will, of the dark night of the world soul, and come out of that in 2027. But it's going to take a few years. But you're really going to start seeing it start to neutralize and harmonize in 2.5 to 3 years. But
Well,
as with anything, it has to culminate.
it's been fast. I mean, I can't believe like how incredibly fast time, whatever this is that we're experiencing,
The
has just been,
collapsing time.
wow. I'm just like
If
blown
you
away. And
look at the last 11 years, how much consciousness has shifted, not only on individuals, because there's millions of us that have awareness of some kind.
right,
And there's a few million that have awareness that don't even realize they have awareness.
because they don't understand the concepts, the boxes.
And they don't understand the visions and the voices in their heads that are saying this is you've been lied to. And you're going to see that a lot in male bodies, because the true divine feminine rising is not a female body like so many believe. The divine feminine that rising is the etheric body of the men that are in a male body.
Wow.
As that etheric body merges with the physical body, that's the true divine feminine that's rising. The divine masculine that's rising is the female bodies fully bringing their higher self, their etheric bodies, which is their masculine positive charge.
It's
Remember,
so interesting.
they call it
It's so
masculine,
interesting.
feminine, but it's really a proton and an electron, a positive and a negative. So when you
How do you see relationships with humans, like romantic relationships? How do you see them evolving with all this? Like, do you see
want the soul,
less
don't love.
relation?
In the human world, love is equated to three things: sex, money, and romance. Unfortunately, it is. And love is not an emotion. And even
No, no.
people in the spiritual new age, whatever category you need to label that collective, they still believe that love is equated to romance. Twin flames, sacred unions, stuff that is defined and limited by human definition. And relationships are not based on sacred relationships. Something that truly is generated from the soul, not all these that get caught up in the distorted twin flame narrative that was to distract them off of their path, but an actual sacred union within. And not everybody is in this lifetime is coming into that. Only certain
Right.
ones are that have
Right.
reached mastery that can use sexual kundalini energy not as a physical act, but as an etheric and energetical union to create new galaxies and star systems. So when you ask me how are relationships going to change, you're going to see definition is what's going to change.
Okay.
Every relationship that has been brought together based on the definition that love is equated to sex, money, or romance, in the sense of women are to grow up, get married, find a good looking man, has a good job, love is equated to money, safety, security,
Right.
stability. And
Right.
so sex, money, romance, security, safety, and stability is what love has been equated to. And all of those narratives, those definitions will play out here and will shift. And relationships are going to shift because your breath is your life force energy. And
Yes,
we
it is.
have given meaning to thought. We have given meaning to definition. We have given meaning to limitations. A perfect example, money is an emotionless resource, but people give all of their emotional life force energy to money. Therefore, that's what brings it alive. Your mentality, your energy, your lack, whatever it is. Money has become your source of love, if you will, security, stability, and safety. Relationships will become less emotional. In other words, rebound relationships, you break up with somebody and people connect through emotional bodies,
Right.
right? And normally those relationships are based on victim, villain, hero, savior, rescue.
Right.
In one way or another, there's a rescue going on emotionally
Right.
or mentally. And that is what will change. There will be more heart connection in the sense of heart intelligence versus it being an emotional definition of thought. And you're going to see a lot of relationships break up, end, because again of the splitting of the two worlds that's really going to occur in the next 2-3 years. Full force, you're going to say it's already done here, but now it has the delayed reaction has to come out, and the delayed reaction is getting littler and littler. What has taken 72 hours, 3 days, we're seeing now in a day and a half to 2 days.
It's intense.
So
It's
at the same
very
time,
intense.
at the same time, time seems to be speeding up. At the same time, time is slowing down for many people. It seems to be dragging out all day long. Oh God, this day just doesn't seem to end. So you're having,
That's so interesting because that doesn't feel like that for me at all.
for me either, I can look at because I don't live by a clock. I don't wear watches. I don't even have clocks around us. The only place anybody can figure out what time is by their cell phone,
Yeah, right.
and me, I don't live by a watch at all. And so for me, it's just like, wow, it's only 3 o'clock. It feels like it's 10 o'clock at night.
Same. I have my concept of what time anything is anymore is completely out the front door. Like I used even with the outside with the elements, it's just living in New York State, like the weather has been so, because I'm so like connected with nature, and it's just been so bipolar and so all over the place, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what's
She
going
is
on?
just displaying exactly what we have given her for millions of years.
I know it's our fault we gave that to
And you know, the reversal, the inversion is already taken place of the poles. Again, it's starting to display itself out here. Yes, there will be a solar flash, because out here has to go through the sun like she did 11 years ago. You're seeing the solar flare show that. But at the same token, there will be some that experience that destruction, and there will be others that have rode up to a higher vibrational frequency
and they won't even see it.
that it ain't going to bother us.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
it's where
I
we
feel,
have been veiled, Jill, to the human story here, where we have been veiled from what has been called the heavenly realms. We can't see the ascended masters, the spiritual beings, blah, blah, blah. For those of us that are going into the broadband frequency of Venus, the ascended broadband frequency intelligence, we will go there and they will stay here. They won't see us, but we will see them.
how will that work though? How will we interplay with that? What will that look like for us? Like,
How does Yeshua and all the other ascended masters interplay with us?
oh, that's true. Okay, okay,
Okay, just
okay,
put yourself on the other side of the veil
okay.
and look down. You
Oh,
look
bro,
all around
wow, that's
you.
intense. Wow.
You want a perfect example of it, Jill? Go watch the movie The Celestine Prophecy.
I read the book and I watched the movie.
Well, the movie doesn't do justice to the
To the
book. The book
books.
is
Yeah, the
amazing.
book is next level, right?
But the movie, there's a part about 2/3, if I remember right,
I haven't seen it in
if I
years, but
remember accurately, that they're in this sphere of light and they can see all their past loved ones that have died. They
yeah,
can
yeah,
see
yeah.
the ascended masters, and they can see the military or the militant people that come in with their friend and little girl, but they're in this sphere of light.
Oh, right.
And they were telling them, don't go into fear, don't go into fear. Now the militants couldn't see them in this sphere of light, but they could see the militant and their friend. but
Okay.
but
Okay.
they went into fear and dropped out of the vibration of that higher frequency light, and then the military dudes could see them and took them hostage.
Okay.
That is the
Okay.
perfect example of what I'm saying. And
Okay.
that's the two worlds that is really going to play out. Now, for those of us that ascend to the other side of the veil, some at the lower realm vibration, we will appear to have died a physical death. For some,
Really?
for some, as
Okay.
you know, and same with those who have chosen to no longer remain in a Homo luminous body, or remain as a Homo luminous, or those that are just ending their soul's journey now and gonna go off to back to source, and then go off to a different universal creation, kind of like the story of Billy, the afterlife of Billy Fingers. Towards the end of the book, he tells his sister, I'm not going to contact you anymore. I am done here. I am going off to a whole different universal creation. um and so there's going to be multiple timeline of reality thought process
Yeah.
play out. And
Well,
again,
yeah,
you
I hope
don't,
you're going to be around for in the same as mine for a while, Miss Linda.
well, I've already transcended my consciousness. I mean, yes, I'm still in a physical form, but you're going to see me. I can disappear in the sun. I can disappear in the light.
Mhm.
Many of us can. I mean, there's many all over the world that are able to do that because they can take themselves to that vibrational frequency. That will get easier for many people that are going into the ascended new earth frequencies, if you will. That's the whole luminous body. It is going to have an appearance of flesh, but there's going to be an underglow to it, if you will.
Okay.
Things are going to start appearing to be more translucent. But at the same time, for those in the lower belief system, a thought process, that's also going to freak them out.
So they're going to be able to see that on some levels.
At the same token, you've had these experiences where somebody has almost hit you, even though they should have seen you.
Yes.
Somebody bumps into you as if they didn't see you.
Yes.
Or we can see somebody a block away walking towards us in the higher vibrational frequency. If you're in a much higher vibrational frequency, even though you're walking down the road right next to somebody, they might not see you until you're right upon each other.
Yeah, that's interesting because I have had that experience multiple times. That's
Remember,
very, very interesting.
we're going to
Okay.
go into a telepathic consciousness shift. Now, I will say this again: you have to remember it's waves of frequency.
Okay.
So somebody can be here, fully telepathic and pick up everything, and somebody here, even with the shift in consciousness, that may never interpret it as telepathy. Oh fuck, I'm crazy. I'm hearing voices. Sorry. To me, it's just a word. It doesn't have
It
any,
is.
but I don't give that kind of meaning to words. I just don't. So again, you got to remember the thought process is different here, different here, different here, different here, different here, different here. It depends on the vibration and the frequency that you're maintaining within you.
It's interesting, Linda, because I had this conversation with a bunch of different people recently where I was explaining how I met this guru, Sai Ma. I don't know if you have heard of her and you know who she is, but I met her years ago, and I had the ability at the time to understand that she was talking to a whole audience of people, and I felt her saying something for me and something different for every single person that was in that room, and I had the consciousness to understand that was happening. I don't know how I did, but I did
Because
back then.
everybody is going to perceive
So
anybody
that's
that
kind of like what
watches
you're
this
saying.
conversation. No one is going to take it the way I mean it because of their own definitions
They're
within.
going to take it wherever they can, wherever they're from is what they're going to receive from you. So if
Yes.
they receive 1% of it, they receive 1%. There may be some that receive 5%. There may be some that receive 10, 15,
And
20. It just,
but when they reach a higher frequency of information, they're going to get
even
clarity
higher. Yep.
to the
Yep.
information. And then they'll go back, oh, wow, I remember hearing this on a conversation between Jill and that woman, you know? So it's not based on truth or untruth.
Vibration, frequency.
You know, when you take yourself back to source, it's consciousness, it's information that's always expanding. And why can't you predict or prophesy something? Because the second you give information is the second the interpretation will distort it. So if you get a vision that says 2030, we're all going to die, right? Because you interpreted it as that's the distortion.
Right.
You interpreted
And
it.
also that's the whole concept of living in the now moment. It's like the only thing that's really real is right now in this moment, you know, and like you can't go into the next moment, and you can't go into the moment before. Just we're in this moment right now having this conversation, and that's all that exists is this
Exactly.
conversation
Your
right now.
bathroom, your living room, your bedroom, none of that exists. It's kind of like you can line you, me, Mariana, Elvira, and Vincent up on the couch, right? And we can all be watching the same movie, right? Or let's just say we're watching the news, which we don't do, but let's
Yeah,
just
I don't
say we're
either.
watching the news. For you, Kamala could be president. For Vincent, Trump could be president.
Right,
For
right,
Mariana,
right.
Biden could be president.
Right,
For
right.
Elvira, the Prime Minister of Canada could be president. For me, I
There
don't
is
have
no
a president.
president.
So, and in that exact same moment, even though there's 5 or 6 of us sitting right next to each other,
Yeah.
depending on what part of the vibrational wave you're on, what broadband frequency, 3D or 5D disc plane frequency, you're all going to be experiencing something different.
It's intense and it's real, and it's so unbelievable when you really can get that. Because when I got that many years ago, it like blew my mind. I was like, wow. I was like, that's how life is. Like every single experience is just where you are and what you're able to bring together. It's not about, we're not all hearing the same thing. We're not all going through the same thing. We think we are, because that's the
Well,
way
we
this
are at the
beautiful
soul
system.
level, but we're
Yeah,
not on the human fractal level. No. And you want to know what's going to be even crazier? And I can't tell you, in some ways, it's already playing out, but I can't tell you when it will go full force because, again, everybody
right.
puts energy into the quantum field by their thoughts. That's why no one can put an exact date except with alignments.
Right.
And numbers, because this whole, everybody's
Number.
scared of the binary system coming in. Why? You guys are bringing it in because you're overriding the binary codes. I've said from the beginning, I came here specifically to override binary coding that has enslaved my own vessel, that my own consciousness. But I have taken myself back to the knowing that there is no Linda or Jill or Tom, Dick, and Harry. So for me, that's how I live my life. To try and be an individual is tough for me because I've let go of that individuality and just let source speak through me and live through me instead of it being what I want. But what's really going to be challenging for us as a human species is coming to the conscious awareness that you don't exist, that you are in assimilation. And that is going to mess with a lot of people because that is going to come full force the next couple of years. I'm going to say it's going to come full force the end of this year and the beginning of next year.
So
On the
how do you think
level.
that unveiling is going to happen, Linda?
In
That's
ripples.
a very interesting concept to think about how that's going to
In ripples, just like it has. But what happens?
everything else.
Because now And there's the physical proof out there in all of these solar charts, human resonance charts, all of this stuff. You see all the information playing out. Because we've hit the 40-degree mark, and we have started the inward path now, physically. The ancient mystery of judgment, everything comes full circle. Life is an echo. What you put out is going to come back at you. So now we have started the inversion. Now everything's coming back. And when it echoes out to the edge of the sphere, and the sphere starts sending those ripples back to us, those ripples get bigger and bigger and swallow up the little ripples as it comes back inland, as the tide comes in. You follow me? Tide goes out,
Yep.
tide comes in.
Yep.
Just like energy, life is an echo. It goes out and it boomerangs back to us.
Yep.
So now the big waves are coming back.
Crashing.
Big ripples. And it's it's engulfing all of the other ripples that are still going out, if you will. And that's what we're facing, humanity, right now. And we just started, those waves just started echoing back now. They're still out there. They haven't hit here yet.
Oh, wow.
But they're coming. And they're coming quickly. That's why I say, I'm telling you, come after this equinox in September. You think the world changed in March 20th, the March equinox. September equinox is going to bring the same effect. The world is going to change. And from first, second week of November, we're going full force. That echo, then those ripples comes full force at us. And as we get into 2024, it's going to get tough out here.
What body changes do you think are coming for people as far as what they're gonna physically feel? Because I know so many people constantly talk about all these body things, and I just don't feel any of that myself personally. So I just want to know
any stuck energy in the body, any pain, discomfort, well, we'll leave discomfort out. Pain, illness, disease are going to escalate.
Okay.
For those in the lower realms, lower
Okay.
vibrational frequencies. Why? Because this energy, again, is going to force us to see ourselves. This energy, this consciousness shift is going to force the life force energy within any of us, is going to force us to see where we have done this to ourselves by suppressing our emotional body. It's going to force individually, collectively, and as a mass civilization, the lack of interactive communication with source, with our vessel, our bodies, and with each other. And the pain and illness and disease and many will escalate because it's suppressed, stuck in emotional energy. And if it's not dealt with, it will materialize in that, because thought creates pain and suffering. But more importantly, on the flip side of that, it's really necessary to really challenge yourself to see both sides of polarity at once. And you're really going to see out here, as more solar flares come, as more earthquakes come, because remember, the light comes from in earth. This is a mirror out here. The ionosphere is reflective. The sun you see out here is the light from within. Become the land, and the land becomes you. And so, as more and more light is brought forth, that's information. And information short circuits. It's electricity. What happens when you have an electrical wire that hits water and it's not grounded? The human vessel is made up of 90% water.
Wow, that's such a great analogy. I like that.
Light
That's a
is
really good one for
electricity.
people.
And all of the solar flares is light, radiation, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
So you got fire and water coming together. Electricity and water, within and without. And if there is not a grounding, what's going to happen?
Dangerous. Dangerous for the human body. Yeah, that's super dangerous.
Cause of short circuiting. You're going to see more and more people having seizures because machines cannot pick up. There's things that CAT scans, MRIs, any of this medical equipment can
No, that's not where we're at.
Spiritual and etheric bodies. And you're going to see more and more people go to medical facilities trying to make sense of what's happening to their bodies. And a lot
They're
of
going to
people
blame
are
it
going
on
to
so
start
many
having
different things. I can
strokes.
already see it.
Yeah, a lot of people are going to start having strokes, start having seizures as this light comes in from out here and that's being brought from in here. So that it's a double whammy, if you will.
Yeah.
And what causes the greatest fear in humans is death. You have half the population that believes in reincarnation. You have half the population that does not believe in reincarnation.
So there's still so much fear around death. Yep.
And so death is nothing more than loss. And what is the greatest thing that we as a human race, I don't want to use the word hate the most, but in its own way, hate the most, is losing something, having to give something up, having to let go.
Yep. The attachment stuff.
And one thing that is going to become very prevalent over the next few years, whether that is 3, 4, 5 years, and you already hear talk of it, is all of this free energy, all of these med beds, all of these things. And it's going to start being presented more so by the end of this year, the beginning of next year. You're going to start seeing cures for cancer. You're going to start seeing all of these new high-tech things that are in, and you're really going to start seeing 2025, 2026, maybe a little earlier, where all of this technology is going to start bringing miraculous results to illnesses, to cancer, to disease, if you will. But again, taking people's power away. And you're going to see mass population get caught up in all of that, thinking that it's a great positive thing for humanity. But again, it's taking your power away. Because
you got to do the work. It's just clearing the symptom. That's not clearing the internal issue.
Exactly. And so we're going to have to face all of that too
So
over the
that's going to be
course.
very confusing for people because people are going to be like, "Oh, it's technology. It's good. It's going to save
Even those
people."
that have awareness, though, Jill, there are many in the spiritual communities that are so for all of these med beds, all of these
No,
energy
I've seen it. I've
devices
seen a
that
lot
can
of it.
kill you. And again, all they're doing is going back into giving their power away to
It's
technology.
just another, it's a higher version of the lower version,
Yes. And
basically.
again, all of this is going to play out.
It's got to. It's part
But
of the
for
story.
those that can keep an inward focus of knowing that this is the aftermath of the release of the dense world to the world soul, and we are conduits. We are not important except in one way, and that is to make ourselves an empty vessel that source energy can just flow through
Just be. Yep. Just be.
and release it having to be anything other than this is just energy flowing through me. It doesn't need a title, it doesn't need a characterization, it doesn't need a label, and it certainly does not need a definition. So
The
the
boxes.
journey for the next 5 years as we walk through the rest of the dark night of the world soul and come out of it, it is going to be necessarily crucial to develop a self-discipline of not becoming emotionally disturbed by the five
I think
physical
something we said
senses.
a little while ago about that, not taking on the responsibility of other people's emotional,
But more
body.
importantly, don't take on the burden of five physical senses and the sixth sense of thought.
I like that. That's a good one. That's a good one,
And
Linda.
that's going to be challenging because
Wow. That
it
because
takes
the five senses are going to be exploding in our
out
faces.
here, and
Yep.
everything out here is going to dangle the carrot in front of your emotional body. Your
And it's
government, your presidents, your kings, your this, your that. Oh, the weather
yes,
modification. Oh, blah, 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 blah. Everything to dangle. And it will
yes,
get fooled by imagery.
yes.
And if you can keep in the forefront, always going forward, the knowing it is never what the physical presents. For everything you see, there is a billion things you need to see that you're not.
Exactly. And it's like training ourselves ninja style how to feel instead of how to see. Because the
And
seeing is what we've always used as this universal, like, oh, everything
proof.
comes together.
We've used our sight, these two, sun and moon, separation, as proof.
And I never saw it that way until you brought that tonight. So I thank you for that because I never put that together like that. That's powerful.
You have to release the eye of Ra and the eye of Horus, the sun and the moon, Osiris and Isis,
Yeah.
the lower
And it
realms.
and it and it makes sense too that the less we use the five and is the more we're going to open up to the whole, like you said, the whole circumference, the
And
whole
your
round
five physical
spectrum.
senses and your sixth sense of thought will absolutely completely change when you bring all 355 sensory senses from here down out of numbness. Because you cannot speak a divine truth, not even be in alignment with the divine truth, until you activate those 355 sensory senses. And as you activate those and bring them out of numbness, only then do the 44 energetic center points in your throat chakra start to open. And as you walk through, again, you have to walk through the 7 heavenly realms below, where Isis and Osiris are the guardians of those collective energy and codes. And then you bring yourself back to oneness. Then you have to walk through the 7 heavenly realms above, which are the Christ and Magdalene are the guardians of.
So I have a
And
question for you.
only
When are you
then,
going to write a book about all this for us?
you know, we're not to be the written word, we're to be the living word. So why
I
bother?
know. It would be
Why
nice as a
bother?
reference.
But if you use this as your reference, you don't need anything out here. I probably have the equivalent of information for 20, 30 books.
I know you do. When you
But
talk about these different realms, it's like I feel like I've touched upon everything you've spoken about, but I'm not into the depths that you have. And I'm just like, wow, like to have that much contact with my Akashic. I joke with people. I was like talking about having this interview with you, and I was like, yeah, I'm like a kindergartner next to Linda, like next to the common person. I seem like this person that holds all this wisdom, and then I go next to Linda and I'm like, whoa, I got a long way to go.
again, I let spirit live through me. It's not about Linda.
No, I'm
But
using
more
you as
importantly,
a reference point.
but more importantly, if I was to write it all down in a book, you guys would never learn how to be in the now.
No, we have to do it. Every single
You
one of
would
us has to get to
because
do it ourselves.
because again, remember, you have to become a conduit, an empty vessel. And all of my wisdom, unless people take notes, record, or whatever, my wisdom only flows through in the moment.
And it's funny, Linda, and I think that me and you work in the same way because I do a lot of stuff comes through me for people, and I don't remember what I told people. Like half the time something will come through, and I'll be like, I don't know what just came through, but they'll say, "Oh my gosh, Jill, you just gave me some sort of clarity about something." And I'm like, I don't I don't know what I just said, but good. I'm glad I helped you out.
I, I don't try to remember anything. I journal, I auto write. I mean, I deal with my people piss me off and I have to go within, okay, what is this that's coming up? I am very, 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 very good about observing in myself, my interactions. I can hear and see myself as I'm engaging.
Hmm.
I can, somebody had messaged Mariana and said, Linda's really good about showing all these patterns to people, but I never see her walking her own talk. I never see her talking about her own reflection and if she's seeing it and blah, 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 blah. And which is really funny to me because I've always said I wouldn't have the wisdom I have if I hadn't walked through the experience to gain the
Of
wisdom.
course.
You don't gain wisdom by watching other people have the experience. And one thing I have always shared is that you have to keep yourself in a space of observing and reflecting regardless. And I'm very good about that. And even this, I'll sit there and say, okay, before I go to bed, when I go into meditation in that quiet time, okay, what do I need to see or know that I didn't catch during our conversation? Or what is this feeling that popped up, or whatever it is, I will observe it, because even though it's personal and Jill has had her experiences and Linda has had her experiences and Tom, Dick, and Harry have had their experiences, they're not our experiences. And that's what we forget. And so we always have to, for those with ears to hear, they will hear themselves as they're engaging. For those with eyes to see, they will see themselves. And only until you have the self-discipline to hear and see yourself and step outside and put yourself in the other's shoes and see the reflection. Because I'm very good about knowing what is mine and what is not, what is a
Right.
collective, what is an individual's issue, what is my reflection, and what is the collective. I can see that. And as much as it is going to get easier and more harmonious and peaceful here, as the shift in consciousness takes place and we do get more harmonious within, it's going to get more chaotic out here. And
That's what I have been gathering from this, from my, from what I'm witnessing in life is I
but we
feel
want it out here. Now, the majority would say, no, we don't, Linda, it's too hard. But as long as it's out here in the physical, we can see it, we can acknowledge it, we can become responsible, and we can neutralize it. As long as it's in our head, just stirring in there, or all these feelings
enslaved.
are in
Yeah.
here and we're suppressing them, and oh, I can't deal with that right now. That's the detriment. We want the stuck energy out.
Yeah.
We want to bring it out. We want to be the water bearer of Aquarius and allow the sensory to come out of numbness to bring the true emotion that is suppressed within us. You don't need to know why. You don't need to know how. You don't need to know when, where, why, what. You don't need to know any of that. Just feel it and release it.
Feel it and release.
But where people struggle, and again, it's going to play out here, is, oh God, what is this? Why am I feeling this? Oh, what's happening to me? Oh God. Excuse me. That need to know, the need to understand, the need for clarity first. And that's
Let
not
it
going to
go.
that's not going to get you anywhere. Don't try to figure out why you're angry, why you feel this sadness, what's this grief coming through you. Don't try to figure it out. Surrender it and let it
Surrender
tell
it.
you what it is. Because if you try to understand it, you try to get clarity, you try to figure it out from here, you're never going to know what it is, because you're making it about you and your experiences rather than what it is. And it's the one world soul, it's Gaia releasing it from the land. We're telling her, hey, it's okay, go ahead. We can
Yeah.
work through this, we can survive through this. And there will be millions that will survive if they listen here. Any kind of evolutionary change that Earth has ever gone through, we have survived through it.
Yeah.
Oh,
That,
sure, there's
and
been a lot of loss of life, absolutely, but there's always been some that have remained. That's how they
yeah.
populate the Earth. That's how they start a new cycle of life. So if we're here, this here is going to navigate us through any obstacles, evil, bad, hardship,
Mhm.
struggle, whatever you call it.
Well, and it's also a handy way to think of it is we chose this, and this is like the ultimate playground. Like right now, what's going on in
It's
the
the ultimate
cosmos,
love
I mean,
story.
they're like banging on doors to get in. Like they want to have this experience. We think it's crazy. We think we're like, oh my gosh, get me out of here. I can't handle it anymore. And all these other energies from outside are like, I want to have this experience. Let me in. I want to do this. And
But
I
is
always
there
think
really,
about
do they
that.
really exist?
Hmm? What was that?
Do they really exist?
Do they really exist? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. And I'll ask you why.
I
If the
believe
only thing that
there's things.
exists, if the only thing that exists is right here, right now, in the present, then how can there be any entities outside of this so-called planet trying to get in? But
Well,
the
I
thing
don't think
that
of it as
exists,
necessarily an outside. I mean, I guess that was the wrong verbiage for me to say.
no,
I
it
got to
was
be
the right
careful of my
verbiage so
words.
you could hear it.
I appreciate you, mirroring it back to me. I just feel like it's definitely a sought after experience. That's the best way to put it.
Right. But it's a belief system that there's energy and higher
Yeah.
dimensional
No, no.
entities
I know.
in
And I don't believe
everything.
it's an outside inside. I just believe it's definitely an experience that's sought after.
We believe that consciousness is a planet,
Yeah. It's not. I know.
but Earth, we're in a Honey, I Shrunk the Kid story.
I shrunk the
So
kid.
if Earth has going down in density to form a planet Earth, right? As we expand back out to our organic nature of consciousness, yes, wouldn't Earth be the omniverse? And wouldn't all
Yeah.
races, star races, this, that, or the other actually be within all of us that are here?
That's the concept in that has to be circulated in this energy of understanding, because that it's like such a program of that, like you said, the external. It's like wiping that away, clearing that out, understanding, like, because I understand it, like you said, in concept, but it's still there somewhere. It's like still stuck.
Yeah.
So it's a
Because
great,
that is what we're releasing as a whole.
see, I'm being vulnerable and I'm letting everybody see that. We all got to do it.
Hey, vulnerability is good. You know why? Because we've been taught that being vulnerable is a bad thing, that it's a
Right.
weakness. And that's why we have put walls around our heart.
Yeah.
And being vulnerable brings humility. Being vulnerable opens us up to receive another. Being vulnerable is saying, I'm not all knowing, that there's a lot that I don't know, and it's okay that I don't know it. Being vulnerable, the label in and of itself has shame and regret and guilt attached to it because we have put it that way and we have
Yeah.
made it a weakness
And
when
it's not.
it's not, because we need each other. If people could put aside all of their bipolarism and understand that it's not even our journey, it's the journey of the world soul.
And that's something that I get from you, from listening to you over the years, is that reminder. And I like that reminder because that's something I forget.
Well, when we can truly embody that knowing, then it's easier to sit there and say, Jill, let me help you. It's easier to say, come over here and let's just talk. Let's get
Right.
it off of your mind so you can stop it from looping.
Right.
Or come bring the kids and come stay over here since your pipes broke.
Right.
But we've been taught to, one, not ask for help, not accept help, false pride and vanity.
Yeah.
And we have attached to all of these labels that, oh, well, if I let them help me, then I owe them. And that's the mentality that we are releasing, and that allowing ourselves to be vulnerable and say, hey, I am down on my luck, I need some help, and not be embarrassed and everything else. That is what's opens your heart to
Yeah.
allow
I
you to receive the abundance and prosperity of Creator.
the whole purpose of this podcast is to welcome vulnerability.
Absolutely. Because
That's
it's the
why I
only way
started this
we're
whole
going to
podcast.
allow. That's the only way as a human species that we're going to allow to do it hand in hand. Unfortunately, why Earth has to go through all the changes she has to go through, as far as earthquakes and land and blah, 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 is because we don't know how to break ourselves open from our walls.
Yeah.
We don't know how to. Unfortunately, it takes a traumatic event, most
Suffering.
often a natural disaster, before the human psyche will say, okay, there's no borders, there's no culture, there's no religion, there's no nothing. When there's a natural disaster, people put their differences aside and they truly start helping each other. And unfortunately, that is what we as a human race has created. And so those natural disasters are going to come in, and as challenging as they may be, and as heart-wrenching it is to hear about the mudslides and the loss that comes with that in so many ways, whether it's people, whether it's homes, whether it's businesses, whatever it is, it brings people back to their heart, and they finally give meaning to what's important, helping one another, being there for one another, sharing one another, instead of the greed and the selfishness and look out for myself and blah, 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 blah. And so for every negative, there's a positive. And every positive, there's a
So
negative.
true.
You can learn to see it. You can learn truly gratitude. You can learn and see and experience and discover that everything is perfectly designed and has to play out the way it has, because we have attached to so many thoughts that have brought this stuff to fruition.
I know. It's intense.
And unfortunately, we have to see what our power has created in order to change the power back to here, you know. And when you can
Oh my
stop
gosh.
being a victim, stop playing savior or hero or
Mm,
stop taking on the burden of somebody's mind and emotional body and put the
yeah.
responsibility. No.
Yep. Put it back on the other person. It's quite the journey we've taken onto ourselves, Miss Linda.
It is.
Linda, I told all of our viewers and
I
all of
love
your
you
friends,
all.
I to I told all of them that I was going to be uploading this at 9 p.m. and we're at 9 p.m.
Oh,
already.
wow. Look at time has flown by.
We're
Wow.
at 9 p.m. and I'm
I
like,
got to
"Oh
drive back to
shoot.
Texas tonight.
Oh my gosh, it's already 9 p.m. We were like it's like two girlfriends chatting. It's
We should do
crazy."
this again.
I would love to have you on in a couple of months, even whenever you're available and you want to.
You just have to
Just,
reach out to me. We're so busy on the ranch. We're
I
start
will just, in a
the
couple of months, I'll just reach out to you on Messenger and be like, hey, you ready again, Linda? And
hey, you might
we'll
want to
do
do
this
it.
again.
You might want to do it next month. There's a lot.
Oh, I'm gonna do a next one with you. Cause man, 3 hours, 2.5 hours, they just flew by with us. It was like we were talking for 5 minutes. It's
Oh,
not.
I can go, I can talk and talk and talk. For me, this is the ultimate love story. It's so exciting, even though in so many ways it seems detrimental. But for me, it's exciting. I mean, I just stay focused right now. We're getting ready to completely start the first phase of the self-sustaining ecosystem. And
I'm coming to visit you, Miss Linda. I'm
feel
coming.
free. Hey, there's plenty, come pitch in and help. There's
I
plenty,
will. I will. I'll do it. Seriously. We'll
you
we'll
know.
keep in touch after this video and I want to definitely come out there and do some work with all of you.
Love to. Come
That would be
see what
great.
we're doing. Come visit, you know,
That would
anybody's
be awesome.
welcome to come visit. And you know, you just gotta know it's a ranch in every sense of the word, you know.
That sounds like fun. I've never worked on a ranch before.
We just had a baby donkey about
Oh,
6 months ago. We had a foal, a foal.
oh,
Say it wrong.
oh,
But the baby donkey is just precious. It's just a few days old.
oh.
But, you know, we got a lot going on.
I guess you do.
You
You
know,
got lots going on at the ranch.
our garden is overproducing right now, and so we're playing catch up with freeze drying and canning
Oh,
and stuff like that.
wow.
But and so many people's around our garden has burned up. I mean, it's going to be 109 in Dallas tomorrow. You know, it's going to be 105 at the ranch, and that's not even counting
Wow.
heat index. So,
Wow, wow. You guys are having I knew that you guys were having heat, but wow,
oh
that's
yeah,
really, really hot.
we got another wave of even more extreme heat coming across the United States and Europe and everything else. Again, we're bringing the light, we're bringing the fire. So
Yes,
let
we are,
nature,
Miss
which
Linda.
is our life force energy, let nature do her job.
Well, I'm gonna close this up so I can actually upload it to all of our friends because I know they're sitting by going, why isn't she uploaded it? Is she having problems? What's going on?
Now we
What's
just
going
talk
on? Where's
forever.
Linda? She said she was coming on at 9. I could just hear them all now, right now. They're all panicking
Bless
like
them all.
something
Thanks
happened.
for your patience. And thank you,
Well,
honey, for having me on.
oh
I know
yeah,
I haven't been on much,
we've
and
missed you.
you know, I get a lot of messages and stuff. I
We've
haven't
missed
been
you.
on. But I stated March of last year that I was having dental work done and I wouldn't be on for about a year or so. So, you know,
Well, I'm so blessed, honored, and grateful that you came on to my show. And I promise we'll have you on again soon. And I love
come
you,
visit
dear
and we'll do
Linda.
it live from the ranch.
Yes, we can do it from your ranch. I'll come visit you and we can do it together.
Do that and I'll go to Montana with you.
Oh, maybe that's what we'll do.
There you go. I
Oh,
love
there's
you
a
all.
story.
Thank you for watching. I love you. Thank you for bringing me on, and let's do this again soon.
Okay, love you, Linda. Bye.
Bye bye, beautiful.